The story begins with the vision of Marion, Barry Jr., but it started when he was 14 years old. Marion was a very special child. He was very ambitious. He was very bright, always wanted to be busy, wanted to work, but he couldn't because he grew up in the Jim Crow South in Memphis, Tennessee, born in Mississippi. And the only kind of job he could get was to deliver newspapers in the colored neighborhoods. You know, there are two things: not being able to get a job because he was colored, and the other thing was as simple as they could only go to the zoo on Thursday. The colored day for the zoo in Memphis was Thursday. The combination of the discrimination and the oppression and the hardcore negative feelings that puts into a human being, and the understanding that in order to combat that, you have to have the ability to earn a living, is what that's at the core of what drove him. Only being able to go to the zoo on Thursday and only being able to deliver papers was the bedrock of who he became, not only at SNCC, but before SNCC, when he got the president of the College of Lemoyne to resign. He was an activist throughout. And so that had a big mark on him, and he used to always say that if I'm ever in a position to help young people get a job, I'm going to do it. So it actually started at the age of when the summer job program starts, at the age of 14. That was his inspiration. And he was working on his PhD in chemistry when he just decided he had to go to the movement. And as they say, the rest is history.
Marion Barry was intentional about creating a program that would teach young people how to advocate. He himself was a student advocate because he was a member of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And through that, it was advocacy. It was young people advocating for what they needed. There are legendary pictures of him and John Lewis. At the time, they went before the DNC, all the things, the voting rights, housing, food, things that people talk about today. Marion Barry was doing it.
Marion was the first national president of SNCC. There was a guy named Benjamin Hooks who was the president of the NAACP. One of Marion's mentors wanted him to come to Washington to start a chapter and said, you need to go to D.C. and start a SNCC chapter. But when he got here, he found a whole different plantation that he had never experienced anywhere else, just a whole town of disenfranchised black people. And he kind of got involved in establishing the Free D.C. movement. Of course, Pride Incorporated.
Mr. Barry's office, may I help you?
Marion couldn't believe how the city of Washington, D.C. was the last plantation, where they had no votes. And I'm a political science professor. I taught it for 22 years, and one of my favorite topics was the presidency. And so one of the things I used to do is study them, biographies, autobiographies, their tapes. And when I started listening to Lyndon Baines Johnson's tapes, I thought Marion's first name was Son of a Bitch. You know, he was on tape, that son of a bitch Barry, that son of a bitch Barry. I didn't know anything about him. He walked in and I said, who is that? And they said, that's Marion Barry. I was like, ugh, gee, he's so arrogant. That's how he came into this city with that dashiki. Marion was raising so much hell in Washington, D.C., he was causing problems with the President of the United States.
The issue is whether people outside can come in. The issue is whether people outside can come in.
Order.
So what?
To order.
Bang again. It is order. We want the people outside, inside, that's all. No, I'm going to stay in here where I was.
And at some point, I started working with Walter Fauntleroy, and then I started working on Marion's campaign, his first campaign for school board, and never lost an election from that point on. He called the police force an occupied army. I mean, he put on his dashiki.
We got to try to create some love and some feeling in our community for ourselves, right? What do you think about the police?
They ain't nothing but pigs, man.
Everybody and his mother knows that the police is the #1 problem in America. That I ought to get something for people out here in the community. I think that's my role as a leader or in leadership position, is to get something if I can do it and be beat to death if I can do it. But if I'm going to be beat to death, I might as well get something for it, and I'm talking about the control of this whole program. That's why I can't move ahead. That's why I got problems. That's why I can't get the enthusiasm to go.
It was the summer of '68. There was a lot going on. It was just after the riots. You know, he was an emerging leader. And a lot of the work that they did at Pride brought in many young people, giving them job training, giving them education.
Used the strategies that they had developed in the civil rights movement and applied them to empowering black people, increasing also entrepreneurship. And at the end of the day, when it was all done and said, there's a whole lot of black millionaires in this country because of it.
Every major movement in this country was started by youth. Every major movement was started by young people. People who don't have the mortgages, they don't have the cars, they don't have the inhibitions. They have a will and a desire to change the trajectory, not just for themselves, but from those who come behind them. Whether it's the sit-ins, whether it's the Greek organizations who participated in the Women's March, every major movement, and that's what Marion understood. That was his position. He wanted to teach, empower young people how to advocate for themselves.
We can conduct our own meeting in the 3rd District, and I live in the 3rd District. I live in the 3rd District, see, you dig it? I work in the 3rd District, dig it? And I deserve, the people out there live there deserve the right to be here, and they're gonna come in here as long as I'm in here. And ain't nobody gonna put me out either.
I'm from New York, but I spent most of my adult life in Washington, D.C. I was probably late 20s. A lot of our work dovetailed very much together. And he was president of the school board, so he was very much involved in education. He was on the city council, and at that time, he was one of the individuals who was very much involved in promoting youth programs and funding youth programs. So he was always engaged in working on behalf of young people in the District of Columbia. And I was interested because I was, at that time, thinking about going into education. Did a little bit of work for him, but when he ran for city council was when I really put effort into his campaign, and then when he ran for mayor. So I've always tried to be as engaged with some of the youth activities. I think Marion ushered in a more activist type government, both at school board level and to the city council, and then certainly in the mayor's office.
My name is Kimry Hughes. I'm a native Washingtonian, originally living in Ward 8, born at D.C. General Hospital to the parents of Carol Holland and Kimry Hughes. I did not get my first start under the Marion Berry brand of Summer Youth Employment Program.
The mayor of the capital city, Walter Washington, is here tonight. There's been some speculation in the press to the effect that because he was a Democrat and his term expires in February, that he would not be reappointed to that position. However, in checking with both Democrats and Republicans in the District of Columbia, I find that he gets very high marks, and consequently today I have asked him to serve for another term. He's agreed to do so.
So I originally worked in the Summer Youth Employment Program when Mayor Walter E. Washington was the mayor in 1976.
I mean, I remember Walter Washington. I knew he was here. I was actually on a board that he had appointed me to. But he wasn't engaged in the way that Marion, I felt, was engaged with people in the community.
I was 14 years old in 1976. Upon leaving high school, I didn't graduate. I went into the Youth Leadership Institute training that Marion created in 1979, and I came into the Institute in 1980.
I think we've gotten a green light to go forward and propose anything we want to.
And he's one of these people who carried in his pocket a notepad and a pen, and he would meet people and they would tell him issues, and if I was with him or somebody else was with him, he'd write it down, put some information down, hand it to us and say follow up.
We really need that initial program committee to start jotting down some ideas for us to consider, and we desperately need on this Saturday to meet and adopt a structure of some kind so we can start moving.
All of us had been part of the civil rights movement. And when Marion first said to me, he called me up on the phone and said, listen, we've had great opportunity. We learned a lot of things. Why don't we create an opportunity for young people to have similar experiences? And we had the Summer Youth Employment Program, and in that year he had decided that we were going to have 30,000 young people employed from like 4,000. It was to create opportunities for young people to both experience leadership and to learn what leadership is all about. So it was, looking for different kinds of programs that would work in that kind of growth. And so he said, can you think about it and send me something? So unfortunately, it's one of those lessons learned. We all learn lessons as we come through our careers. I asked somebody else who was working with me, because I was head of the youth office, to put it together for me. And they did, and they gave it to me, and lesson learned. I glanced at it and sent it directly to the mayor. It didn't take but an hour before I got a telephone call saying, what is this? Audrey, and it was from his chief of staff, Ivan O'Donnell. Audrey, Marion is so upset. He is angry, he is annoyed, he doesn't know what you're thinking, he's disappointed in you, and I just felt awful. So then he said, I'm sending this document back. I won't use the language they use. I'm sending this document back down to you. Take a look at it and give me something tomorrow morning. So I get it back and I look at it, and it's awful. I went home, it's about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, sat down, started reading through a number of youth development books that I had, things that I had worked on, pulled some things together, and started thinking about, okay, what experiences did I have as an organizer, a civil rights organizer? What experiences did I have, and why were those experiences important? And I was up the entire night. I typed it up probably around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, read it very carefully, and when I got into the office, I took it up to Ivan O'Donnellson's office, and he looked through it. He said, I'll pass this on. He passed it on. The mayor called me and said, this is more like it. Now I want you to add this and this and this. And what we thought about was, to be a good leader, first of all, you have to understand not only your community, but you need to understand, if you're going to work on issues, how to approach, how to do the research, how to understand the legislative process, how rulemaking, all of those kinds of things that you would assume young people were learning in school, but we didn't have civics going on then. So now this was a way of adding civics in. So the Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute became the work site for those young people who applied.
Prior to Marion coming in office in 1979, D.C. only used federal dollars, which came from the Department of Labor, to hire summer youth employees. Marion, coming from his civil rights background and understanding the struggle of black families, decided that he wanted to increase the summer job.
He said, I have decided that we're going to offer a job to every youth in the District of Columbia that wants one. So what a lot of people don't know is that our first summer job program really was a partnership between the district government and the national government, because Nancy Reagan was a part of that. A lot of people don't know that.
So he identified local dollars, which we call appropriated. We went from, prior to 1979, hiring 1,500 to 30,000 his first year. And that was done by him introducing the Summer Youth Employment Act of 1979. So we were the chocolate city, about 80% black. By 1954, 1955, DC started evolving from a predominantly white city to a predominantly black city. Cultural explosion in the community. You remember, we were soon after the 1968 uprising, after Dr. King's assassination. The city had many dilapidated communities and housing. Communities were torn up. And so prior to Marion coming in office, we were considered a sleepy southern town, believe it or not. We are below the Mason-Dixon line. Going through its evolution, and it had not really reached the prominence that Marion helped usher in when he came in office.
We worked together day and night. So another component that we added was a residential, at least for 2 weeks.
Predominantly on Howard's campus. We were on Howard University campus.
Young people would be living and working and learning from each other. So we were bringing young individuals from Ward 3, Ward 7, Ward 8. We had counselors who at night, they would get together in small groups and talk about what it means to be a leader, what their concerns are in their communities. And you started to see some momentum evolve. And then one of the things that we decided was to have a mayor and have a council for the Youth Leadership Institute.
I went to the Institute with the wrong impression, but it was the second night for me. This guy came out spitting what I call verbal gymnastics, talking about my name is LB, Triple P, Platter Pan, Papa, Young and Say. So he caught my attention, but then he talked about why Marion created the Youth Leadership Institute. See, he expanded the summer jobs, but he created the Institute. And Marion created an institute to give young people of this generation opportunity for leadership training so that whatever we do in our lives, that we would take responsibility and be leaders. But more important, he knew the importance of teaching government and engagement and advocacy. And so he created a mock government where you were elected mayor of the Youth Leadership Institute and City Council. And so this guy spitting that verbal gymnastics was the motivational speaker we know of today, Les Brown. After he talked about the power of the young people, the voice of the city, being engaged, setting policy and whatnot, that night I decided to run for mayor of the program.
My experience that summer was like a life-altering experience because I graduated that same summer at the age of 16 and really did not know where I was going to go. And so I went into the youth leadership program and we learned about self-exploration and planning for your future, things that a high school counselor never said to me in the 3 years that I went to high school. And they ended up letting me work down at the program during the school year.
First and foremost, the program wanted to give young people a voice, and he did everything he could to make sure that young people got various opportunities through city government, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations. He made sure that young people were exposed to all of those avenues.
It made me become more focused on my voice, my energy, and my action towards uplifting our communities, in particular Black youth. And so that was the kind of embryonic stages of my becoming engaged in the political world and civic engagement.
Internally, what we started doing was, because we noticed the one thing that the program did not do was competition. You compete for everything in life, and jobs was one. So we started setting up internal mechanisms for competition within the pool without letting everybody know. A perfect example would be, there was always a distinction between 14 and 15-year-old youth versus 16 and 16 and above. Mainly because the 14, 15-year-olds, you know, they were under child labor laws. You were limited to the number of hours that you could work. Just by the structure alone, that limited 14, 15-year-olds. What we started doing on the registration was a higher achiever. You looked at your report cards. If you were a student, we figured that you had something going on great. So then we started taking the high achieving 15-year-olds and placing them with the 16 and older population. What that did was, now I'm rewarding you for what you're doing year round. Well, what you should have been doing anyway. Another thing that we tried to do is, again, most of the time we talked about summer jobs, it was male and then females. Marion Barry's program equalized all that. But we went even a step further. We would do programs specifically for females. It was for teen pregnancy, youth teen parenting. So then that allowed us, the females, to even have a greater foothold, or at least an equal foothold to their male counterparts.
In my previous capacity, I served as the Associate Director for over a decade for the Office of Youth Programs, which is the home of the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program and the Marion Barry Youth Leadership Institute. Now, the interesting thing about both programs, I was the director in office prior to his death and at the time of his death. So they were not named after him until he passed away.
Well, Marion Barry died from natural causes on Sunday after having been released from Howard University Hospital on Saturday.
My father was one of his drivers. Marion Barry gave me my first summer job. I'm sure you hear a lot of that.
The last thing that Vincent Gray did while he was in office was change the name from the Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute to the Marion Barry Youth Leadership Institute.
Muriel Bowser, when she became mayor, her first official act
was change the name from the Summer Youth Employment Program to officially the Marion S. Barry Summer Youth Employment Program. I happened to be there and serve during his transition and while he was on council. Now, the interesting thing about being the person in charge of a program that the Marion Barry created is that you could get a call at any time about what you were doing right, what you were doing wrong, and what you needed to improve. I would also get calls in the middle of the summer. Ms. Freeman, I'm standing right here on the corner of Atlantic Street Southwest, and you know, and I'm standing right here, and I'm talking to Antonio, and Antonio told me he's not working, and I'm telling him right now, he coming down to see you, and he better be working, and I'm gonna call you back tomorrow to make sure that he working. And Antonio, you got that? Ms. Freeman, you got that? And my response was always, I got it, Mayor Barry, I got it. There was never a youth that he met that it was too late to serve. There was never a youth that he encountered that was impossible to serve. He wanted to know why we weren't knocking on doors of homes to make sure that every youth had an opportunity. Before Instagram and all of the current social media aspects, he realized that we needed to connect to young people in ways outside of government, outside of traditional approaches. Youth are proactive, reactive, and inactive. So your proactive youth are gonna do all the right things always. Then you have your reactive youth who are going to do what their friends are doing. Your inactive youth, they're not doing anything for many reasons. And that's where we come in and ensure that they're doing something.
You always hear everybody say, the older people, Marion Barry gave me my first job. You better sign up for that program. That's all you would hear people say. And it never really clicked or meant anything to the young people because it's like, okay, he gave you your first job until it was time for us to get our first job. And then that U.S. bank card, Citibank card, that's what really meant something. When you see your friends walking around, they go to the ATM with their Citibank card and they taking out their money, you're like, hold up, I need a job. They will always walk around like they was a cult. If it is to be, it's up to me, is their slogan. And so I just wanted to be a part of it. I was like, I gotta join this and see what's going on. But to be able to join it, to be a young girl in high school, and to have these adults, you know, really support you, really lean in and teach you different things, and they want to see you succeed. And for them to say, no, we'll collect the college fund for you to stay here and do this, that's the legacy. And that's what Marion Barry wanted. It was all about community. It was about making money, but it was about really exposing the youth in the District of Columbia to something different. So Thanie Freeman, working under her, we used to have this saying, great leaders breed great leaders. My mom used to always tell me, know your job and 2 more above yours.
His legacy lives in the folks that have benefited from his programs, like myself, like a Norm Nixon, like a Kenny McDuffie, like a Robert Conti, who became the chief of police, Sheila Bunn, Danette Tucker. All of those folks went through the Youth Leadership Institute. Those things are part of the legacy that Marion helped to embody for our young people who are now in leadership positions.
Well, this is my city. The fact that my family's been here since 1895, we actually have our great-great-grandparents' home. My family still lives in that home that they purchased in 1915. What people don't understand about D.C. is, first of all, D.C. is not a state. You know, we have no representation in the government, no senator, no congressman. When you know the history of this place, from 1871 to 1967, we had no representation except 3 advisory members. After that, Walter Washington in 1967, who was a commissioner/mayor. But the first elected mayor was Mayor Marion Barry until 1979. So we really didn't have any representation on that end. But D.C. was considered like the promised land for black folks from the South who were descendants of sharecroppers, because once you got a job in the, the stability of working in the government, that gave you some level of stability.
Having worked with him personally, I worked in the mayor's office for a few years. One of his campaign themes one year was everybody matters. Knew people by name, would sit down and have dinner with people inside of their homes. And so he was a people's person. Even though he was the mayor of the most powerful city in the world, he was one of us. He was somebody that you could relate to. He was somebody that was about empowerment, and you knew that he cared because he came through the struggle.
Marion created the political will to make this city better. Marion created a political will to make the legislative body, the city council, and the government work for its people. He particularly was concerned about youth and elders. And to this day, the Youth Leadership Institute is still thriving and doing its thing.
You could determine a nation or leadership by how they take care of the youth and the elderly. Mayor Barry paid attention to the elderly. He made sure senior citizens had places to live.
Well, that was a part of a larger agenda. Summer job programs, one thing, minority contracting, 33 1/3% of every contract had to go to African Americans. Couldn't do bond business in the city unless some people sitting around the table looked like you. So it was a whole economic empowerment plan. Many of the people got their start in the summer job program. As a matter of fact, there's not a day, and I am not exaggerating, that if I leave my house, that somebody will not say to me, I got my first job from Marion Barry every day of my life. That legacy goes deep and it goes long. And so that is the bedrock of many people, but then other people will say, I got my first contract from Marion Barry. I got my first opportunity to have bond business because of Marion Barry. So that his legacy is a legacy of economic empowerment, actually.
So Marion shifted the wealth gap in our city. In my opinion, that was part of the problem that made him a target for investigations continuously, because he was moving the cart and moving it away from the people who were used to the power. Imagine, you used to get 91% of the contracts, now you're getting like, what, 62%? That is a major shift for power folks and millionaires who used to get in the business. So Marion came in with a spirit of revolutionary ideals. He brought in some of the greatest professionals in his administration.
Sustainability is the most important thing of all. There's a million people who do a million things and come up with a lot of ideas. But the shelf life really determines the impact. And the ability of this program to be where it is a combination of, as Marion used to say, it's good policy, but it's greater politics. Marion just cared about people sincerely on such a fundamental level. He had no respect of person. He looked at people the same, no matter what your title was, no matter what your station in life was. And people knew he genuinely loved them. And his dedication was for that. So he made mistakes, but he made human mistakes, but he never betrayed the people.
So the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program for me was transformative.
Forever life-changing.
Everything.
Family. A launch pad.
The voice of the youth.
It's needed for the district residents, specifically our youth.
A moneymaker for young people in the city.
The gateway.
The Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program was a lifesaver.
I want to be remembered as God having given me gifts that I use for the benefit of other people, that I helped a lot of people along the way. I was compassionate. I was passionate about what I did. I was selfless, and that I didn't just squander it away. I gave the gifts that I have to help people and to give a person a hand up rather than a hand out.